Ooh, now what's this then? I love this. A big flashy lighty thing, that's what brought me here. Hello!
Oh, wakey.
It's
Pull to open.
Pull to open.
Yes, and what do you do?
A bad thing?
A very bad thing.
Watch out, okay? Keep your faith. Stay off the naughtiness.
That was funny.
Come on, we're boys. And you know what boys say in the face of danger?
What?
Here come the drums!
Hello and welcome to Pull to Open, an ongoing quest to watch all of Doctor Who, the entire television program, specials included, in random order. I'm Pete Paschal.
And I'm Father Christmas, or as the Doctor knows him, Jeff. I'm also Chris Taylor. And we're a couple of guys, a couple of journalists, a couple of celebrants of being halfway out of the dark, as we almost are, along with a lot of you, when this records. We should mention that we are taping this right after the giggle. It's the next day, and I think we're still a little partied out. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a bit shooty here with my the lazy tie draped around the neck, and either shooty or Frank Sinatra. But I got to say that what we're doing today is such the perfect kind of antidote to kind of like exploding our brains with new headcanon, and it's just a nice soft landing that the randomizers provide us with.
Totally. For those not watching on YouTube, Chris is revealing that he is all full shooty gatwa here with the shirt and tie, and I hope he's wearing pants. That's all I have to say.
I will never say.
So
only Mel Bush knows.
I've got a few Easter eggs in the background you might have noticed, because 'tis the season, and even though it's a week early, at least when this is posting, we have arrived at, something that might be very relevant to the season. But before I get there, I want to describe that previously on Pull to Open, we were for the 60th anniversary special, virtually the day of, we were at the 10th anniversary special. We were doing the 3 Doctors.
Which I gotta say, after the giggle, looking back at that, I am he and he is me, and we are all together, turned out to be a spoiler.
Yes, it's true. Man, this randomizer, it is incredible, the through line, because, Nightmare of Eden was a bit of a weird one to justify in between.
Was perfect for the toy maker's return. It was a bit weird. It was a bit on drugs.
That's true. Kind of bit of a high there, you might say. And but then we went right back into some classic Tennant, particularly some massive cosmological scale Tennant.
Yes.
Right around the same time we were giving our hot take on Wild Blue Yonder, we were also
wild.
Our regular takes on The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit, joined by one Ellie Blackwood from TikTok influencer fame you might remember her from.
And then with Ellie's random juice, we came here to post giggle landing, which is the 2010 Christmas special, A Christmas Carol. I'm so excited, as you can tell by my Bah Humbug hat, which is actually my father's hat. He was actually called Jeff, so let's just say that he was Father Christmas. I'm thrilled to get into it.
That role.
It's what a perfect thing to wear for a tale of a father and a son trying to escape the shadow of his father, and all of these things. But anyway, before we start, if you want to cut right to that, where we get all timey-wimey and all Christmassy with it, with our commentary on A Christmas Carol, check the show notes, the exact time to fast forward to, but you don't necessarily want to do that because you will miss the Whomoji Challenge, an all-new Whomoji Challenge in which Pete will give me Doctor Who's story title in the form of emoji. I have to try and guess it. I usually kind of fall flat on my microphone at that point.
No, not lately. Not lately.
No, I've been doing pretty well, although Ellie did walk away with the title, so we're going to have to manufacture a new Sonic.
Stole that from Steven Shapansky, who helped us out recently in another recent podcast.
Oh my goodness, we should just issue all our guests with Sonics when they win the Whomoji challenge. We got another poll to open coming up on Nightmare of Eden and lots more in the poll to open Pulse Loop.
Of course, fetch a demon.
And first up in the Pulse Loop, folks, we have a presence not just in your ears and on your eyes on YouTube, but also on something called the World Wide Web. We are at pulltoopen.net, where it is a place you can also subscribe to the Pull to Open newsletter. You'll get our regular free notes, complete notes that we use to when we do the podcast, which usually includes a few things we don't get to. So there are some observations that are exclusive to you as a newsletter subscriber. And we would very much appreciate if you could support the podcast. Go ahead and steer your browser to Patreon. Go to patreon.com/pulltoopen to become a patron and ensure you will get more takes, hot and otherwise, on Doctor Who in the months and years to come.
And speaking of hot takes, we had so much fun doing, fun in inverted commas, doing all of the hot takes on the 60th anniversary specials. We want to keep that energy going. We are going to sacrifice little bits of our Christmas day, December the 25th, for you, dear listener, because we know that you are also going to be watching The Church on Ruby Road, the exciting new first full shooting Gatwa episode with Ms. Sunday entering the picture, and perhaps some goblins coming along. But we're going to talk about all of that in a hot take commentary posted the actual same day. So that's why it is awesome if you can support us for doing such things, and just, you know, toss us the cost of a Christmas beverage, Governor, into our cap. And Pete, how else can people be kind to us at Christmas?
Well, seeing as we're going to leave them an extra gift under the tree a little later in the day, they can also give us a gift, and it is the gift of reviews. If you could go ahead, open up your Apple Podcast app if you're on an iPhone, and if you're not, just steal your friends, and go ahead and leave us a review. Reviews really do help the show and get us more visible in front of more people in the Apple Podcast app, and it does not take much. Go ahead, just leave a few characters, just leave a few emojis. In fact, if you want to leave some emojis in the form of a Doctor Who title, that is our favorite thing in the world, and it also fuels the next thing in the Pulse Loop, which of course is the Whomoji Challenge.
I like that it's become Whomoji. It's shifting from its linguistic base already.
Bah Humbug.
Bah emoji. You know what I call it? Getting something for nothing.
Well, we're going to get someone in the tree icicle stand. I don't know. There's something here where we're dropping icicles at you, and it's going to be trouble. The metaphor is getting too stretched, and we just got to get right to it, guys. It's time for the Whomoji Challenge, where I get to torture Chris with a bunch of emojis that represent a Doctor Who title, and he gets to guess it. He does no help this week. He's the only contestant.
That's right.
And this one, I think it's very apt, and that's already a hint. I shouldn't have said, probably, but we're going to get right into it. Are you ready, sir?
I am ready as I'll ever be.
All right, 4 emojis. Here we go. First emoji, life preserver. Second emoji, ship. Third emoji, one of the devils, but it's like the red devil with sort of the mane. It's got sort of a black outline.
Here's that.
And then there is the skull and crossbones.
Gotta be Voyage of the Damned.
Yeah, our little groovy. Voyage of the Damned it is. Good work.
Perfect one for Christmas.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bob.
And yeah, thank you very much. I was bought from Bob Gilby, longtime friend of the pod, always supplies us with a healthy amount of Whomojis. We've got a few more. We're going to trickle out in the coming weeks, and I would rate that one as the easy one. So watch out, future Chris.
All right, I'll warn future Chris when I see him.
But folks, I also want to talk to you, That's right, you listener on Spotify. There are many, many ways to interact with the show on Spotify. I see the numbers. I know you're not all using the polls. Use the polls. There is a poll there just for you. And it is the poll that asks you what you think of the episode that we are talking about. And you can do that right now. You can actually go into your app and rate A Christmas Carol with whatever you want. Any of our signature ratings, everything from the Viscount Banger to the Lady Cassandra. Go ahead and do it. You can do it now. You can wait until you hear what we have to say about it, but please do use it. We'll remind you again at the end of the show, because then you can be part of the follow-up, which we're about to do right now for Nightmare of Eden, where we talk about the results. And oh my goodness.
Yeah.
People no likey.
I know, they had a nightmare with Nightmare in Eden, because with a stunning 42.9% of the vote, the Ogron is winning this race. I say winning because, of course, you can change the outcome right now. Just go back to the Nightmare on Eden of Eden episode and vote in that poll that's right there. But yes, they like that. Then the next most popular rating was the Professor Hater, which is, we both had Hater in our ratings. You were a full Hater. I was a Hater Cassandra, and Cassandra got 14.3%, equal with the Dalek. No Viscount Bangers, no fixed points in time. Yeah.
It would be tough to call this one a Viscount Banger, I gotta say. I'm not as that. I do get the Dalek, though. Like, you know, if there is a certain maturity and the way they sort of attacked this and tried to kind of be the Wire in Space or the French Connection or whatever, it was definitely interesting. And so, like, if you were into those themes, and especially sort of the fact that Douglas Adams was sort of still the script editor and putting in a lot of that creativity, you could see
it's got a lot of that season 17 juice.
Yeah, it's defensible.
Yeah. So I get it. But yeah, keep voting. If you're in line, stay in line. And also go over to youtube.com/pull2open. That's a good place to leave the emoji title that you might want to torture me with in the new year. Please make a New Year's resolution to do that, and to smash that like, subscribe, bell icon buttons. You can find the hot takes there, the shorts there, the tighty whities there. No, wait a minute. Just shorts. And Pete, where else? I feel like
there's a blooper somewhere where Tennant says tighty whitey instead of timey-wimey. I won't find that footage.
Who knew that that's what Tennant was wearing all along? We've never seen the Doctor's underwear before. We've seen him in shower, but yeah. Seen him in a dressing gown. Anyway, sorry, we're getting sucked back into the giggle, which is just imprinted on all our screens.
Well, folks, what you don't want to do is send us any pictures of tidy whities on any of our social networks, but you should follow us there, particularly on TikTok, where we're at Pull to Open. We post regular shorts there all the time, clips from the show. And we're also on Twitter /X, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, all at Pull to Open 63, as well as Blue Sky, where we're also at Pull to Open. And that is that.
Yeah, now is the time when we just go straight into talking about A Christmas Carol without summarizing it in any way.
Wait, what?
That's right.
Hold on a second. Did we just time jump over TLDW?
Yeah, exactly. I went back in time. I erased TLDW, and we don't do it in the show anymore. Sorry.
Oh my God. All right. Well.
Okay. Because it's Christmas. Yes, we'll have to split off. There'll be one version of me that just goes home forever and never does TLDW again. This version carries on.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you're this version. You're not having Christmas every day, and we're going to summarize the Christmas special, but the specials are always a bit of a conundrum here, because they're a little longer than your average episode, and I think this one's a bit longer. I think it's closer to an hour's runtime than the normal sort of 45, 48 minutes. And we usually give 1 minute to summarize stories that are new Who, but this seems like it's a, say, 75-seconder. What do you say?
I'd say I say 75 seconds is very generous. Thank you, Governor. Thank you. So kind. Give me 75 seconds.
Then you've got them. Let's get to them here on the official Pull to Open summary of A Christmas Carol, coming at you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Amy and Rory are on a spaceship in the future. They're in the honeymoon suite playing dress up. But what's happening? The ship's crashing on this planet. There's the cloud layer, and it's bumping them along. But the Doctor investigates because they have a distress signal, and he says, "Come along, Bond." And he finds out that there's a guy in the clouds below, Kazran Sadrek, who could let the ship pass through the cloud layer, but he's not going to because he's evil and mean and old. But he also doesn't hit a kid that is asking for some girl to get opened out of a casket on Christmas Day. So Doctor wants to know why, and Doctor goes back to him as a kid, and they play with the fish that swim through the atmosphere of this planet, swim through the cloud layer, and the sonic screwdriver gets half eaten by a giant shark. Oh no! But the Doctor manages to make Kazran much more human by introducing him to the woman, and Kazran grows up. They do this every Christmas Eve, and they go to like 1950s Earth, and they just have a lot of fun. But then it turns out that she's dying, but she can save Kazran one more time because he sees his kid sees his future self, and then she sings to the fish, and that allows the crystals in the cloud layer to let the ship through.
Not bad. Wow, I was really worried about you. You got like to the full first minute almost without even getting to the time travel stuff, visiting every Christmas Eve, which is kind of seems like most of the story anyway.
Yes, I did.
But you pulled it out, even though you're a couple seconds over. We'll allow it. Good summary.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean it is definitely one we should say. I'll just speak for myself. It got even better this time around. I liked it the first time. And we should say that we have discussed this on Pull to Open before. long time listeners and people listening to the entire back catalogue of Pull to Open while cleaning buses will have heard us talking about A Christmas Carol in our very, very first episode, Who Doesn't Love Christmas?
That's right. We had some takes, not fresh takes, because we hadn't seen it all that right. Although I think I'd seen it recently with my kids, but it was very interesting coming back to it. So I've definitely seen this even a couple of times since, because this is kind of a favorite in my household. You know, there's obviously a lot of Doctor Who Christmas specials to choose from, and this is one we come back to often. I watched it again, and this is an interesting thing. Just because of scheduling this week, we couldn't watch it all together as a family, so I watched it twice this week. Once with Grace and once with Jack.
Nice.
And it was interesting to see them both. I'll talk about what they thought of it this time in a minute. But what I really liked was they both really looked forward to it both times. When I said, "Oh, we're doing A Christmas Carol this week," they were both like, "Oh, wow!" You know, like their eyes kind of lit up, like, "Oh, I love that one. Let's go." Yeah, we're looking forward to it. So. They have very fond memories of it, and now that they're older, so Grace is now 10 and Jack just turned 14, and they've kind of seen it a few times throughout their youth, right? And the reactions this time were very interesting. I'll get into them later, but it's kind of a classic for them.
It has repeatability, and I use that word very advisedly. We just mentioned briefly Voyage of the Damned in the Whomoji challenge, and that's where we learn that RTD is really into little bits of dialogue that have repeatability. But the show itself, in terms of having a Christmas special itself that is just so repeatable, as you say, you know, you can watch it with both of your kids individually, watch it twice. It's not necessarily enough. It's got that Christmassy vibe, exactly like, say, It's a Wonderful Life, which a lot of people watch every year.
Yeah,
on
wife
Christmas.
Included.
Yeah, you know, people love other versions of A Christmas Carol. The Muppets version is a favorite for a lot of people. You know, because who doesn't love Muppets? This has this Christmas special, perhaps above all of them. Like Last Christmas may be the best. We've talked about that before. You know, whatever you think. But this one you can just watch over and over. And that is Moffat's genius at work here. Moffat in full flow.
Yeah, one thing we raved about in our brief commentary on it in the first episode was just the timey-wiminess of it. I mean, I think everyone universally loves the device. I mean, it's tailor-made, right? Because you have A Christmas Carol. It's obviously Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future. It's just begging to be reinterpreted by any story that wants to play with time travel. And Moffat really delivers here. I mean, it's again, it's really smart. The idea of, you know, time can be rewritten which isn't brand new in this episode, but this might be the sort of best realization of that idea in Doctor Who. He changes the personal history of an individual in kind of real time, even though the term real time is a little bit meaningless when you're talking about time travel. But to see that happen, and again, like if you want to be a stickler,
I was going to say,
the rules of it are weird, but they work in the story.
I will say that later on I'll be having a Bah Humbug corner in which I question the ethics of changing Kazran's life like this. We've got a bit of a trolley problem issue going on, but let's put all that aside for now, because
we'll come back around to that. I definitely have thoughts on that.
I do. You're absolutely right. Just on the timey-wiminess, before we leave it, just that scene of the Doctor walking into the other room, where and just appearing on young Kazran's film, like just the instant. You don't often see that. First of all, we should say that the TARDIS is being interestingly specific here and exactly where it's able to go, and very, very quickly and back and forth. It's acting a bit like a taxi service. As it sometimes does, but we'll forgive that. It's a bit weird that it can't do it above the cloud layer and lock onto the ship, but again, we'll forgive it. It's Christmas.
Right, that's just sort of glossed over in a single line. He says, can't do it with the TARDIS, can't lock on. It's like, okay, I guess. It's like, I can't visit New York in the 30s or whenever Tammy and Roy were, because of reasons. You got to do these sort of contrivances, and I'm glad they just don't spend a lot of time with it or get more detailed than that. They say it, you gloss over it, don't give people time to dwell, move on. So that's the smart way to do that.
One thing I keep forgetting about A Christmas Carol is that this is the one where the Doctor goes and does or doesn't marry Marilyn Monroe.
Right. His other wife. His other wife.
I've definitely sort of stitched that in my brain together with more sort of the River Song era of season 6 that's coming up.
Right.
Because it feels very much like that. Like it's that. This is kind of like there's bits of surprisingly mature Doctor Who here. It's things. I mean, what are Amy Rory doing in the honeymoon suite and dressed up in those particular outfits? I'm sure there are going to be some questions from young kids to embarrassed parents about that.
Yeah, these are sort of the parts of Moffat that you either love or hate, or they irritate you or they don't. I personally really like them. I mean, this is the guy who did Coupling. He's going to get fun with the relationships and be wry with it, occasionally pushing up to the limits of it being appropriate or not. I mean,
and this has to be the Doctor Who episode with the most on-screen kissing. And it isn't the Doctor,
maybe,
right? Yeah. It's Kazran and good God, why do I keep forgetting her name? Abigail.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry, Abigail. I'm so sorry, Catherine Jenkins. Who, a discussion of Catherine Jenkins might belong in our Bah Humbug corner, but I will just focus on the one thing that stood out for me this time, and it's because I listened to the BBC Sounds Doctor Who 60th anniversary concert special where they play Abigail's song, "Silence Is All You Know," and because of that, because my brain was, I think, already primed for it, I really got into that this time. I have been listening to the Murray Gold soundtrack album kind of on repeat this week.
Wow, look at you.
And, the thing that I dinged it for in our original Christmas podcast was, just kind of the ridiculousness of the image of, like, she's singing to fish on the sonic screwdriver microphone. But... I kind of like that now. Well, I'm all in on it now. It's the ridiculousness of Doctor Who. Only this show can do that.
Only this show can do that, and really only Moffat could be so bold as to sort of throw all this imagery together and just go full fantasy. So he deserves a lot of praise for this. I think... I don't think he needed anything to go to his head. I think he was already sort of very confidently taking Doctor Who into a fantasy world. But this really does it full on, and it really succeeds on so many levels. So you mentioned sort of the visuals and the singing and the fish flying around in air, and he gives sort of very light explanations for that, which is fine. I mean, it's Doctor Who. And so again, this is sort of one of the things Jack really liked in that he being older now, sort of thought more about the storytelling elements, and you just thought about like, oh, the setting's really good, like it being sort of this Earth colony, this unspecific, but also like it's got this steampunk veneer to it.
Yes.
So it's futury, but it's sort of also trapped in sort of a Victorian style. I mean, there's just a bit where that guy is sort of talking to the doctor outside and he's shaking his hand. Oh, never seen anyone stand up to Mr. Kazran like that. And he's shaking his hand. And he does this thing where he puts on some goggles.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh, okay. You're like, got it. This is steampunk world.
And it kind of works because there's mist and there's sharks, and they've really thought through what a world like that would look like. Hence all the portholes, the round windows everywhere. Very, very deliberate ocean reference, sea reference. You definitely got that sort of weird Doctor Who-y sense there. And there's a moment where he says, I love new planets, fish that can fly. And it's so perfect. It's a perfect collision of a literal Moffat childhood nightmare, which is he used to dream of or have nightmares about sharks evolving in real time. I think he'd been watching too much Doctor Who. Maybe he'd been watching too much Full Circle, evolving in real time and just like swimming onto land and flying at him. So he turns that into actual Doctor Who stuff, in a very Jaws-like way, and it really works.
Well, this is also like, I think, close to peak Sharknado.
Where, you're right.
Traumatizing time for Stephen Moffat.
Really.
Yeah, I like so much of that design. We talked about the portholes. I really like how they use that even as a visual cue for the Doctor to come in and out of his life, Sardic's life. And, when he's there later outside the window, when he hasn't even turned on the sonic, which is, you might think, how did he even do that? But I think it really, really works that he's sort of has this moment where he's going to call him. He's there, and then that actually steels himself to it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Kazran and the character.
And Michael Gambon.
It gets better Michael Gambon. Oh my God, he cannot say enough about him.
We'll get to why the randomizer chose this, but this is sadly our first Christmas without Michael Gambon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so what a choice.
Yeah,
what a way to honor him.
Well, he's incredible. His storyline here is fantastic. But I got to say, something about it bothered me the first time I saw this. And over time, I have gotten comfortable with it and actually even like it because it actually makes more sense. And, I feel like I was denser back then. So here's the thing that bothered me. I felt like he didn't really have a reason to be, I think, evil. I used the word evil in our previous podcast. I think that's wrong. I think he's just... not empathetic, right?
Yeah, he's apathetic and he's nihilist and he only believes in himself.
Yeah.
Because it's just easier.
And I think his, clearly he's had a really rough childhood. He had an abusive father and all of that's just plainly there. But I also felt like, well, why wouldn't he at least be changed enough by the Christmases that he spent to, at the very least, save this ship full of people? I mean, surely isn't that enough? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like he needs that final push with the Ghost of Christmas Future moment, which is a great moment. But I also felt like, well, surely at this point, he's not totally the same guy. But then you look at it and it's all, again, it's there. He's now so full of anger at the Doctor for both having him fall in love with someone who's only has a day to live, but also just manipulating him. Like he just says like it works so well because at the end there he's screaming at the Doctor about how he doesn't care, like, which is the ultimate ironic, like, can you hear yourself moment, right? Like, and when he finally sees himself as a kid. And it's the Ghost of Christmas Future moment, which is absolutely the inspired twist by Moffat and this old timey-wimey thing. It all comes together. So this is, this time we're watching Christmas Carol, it was all just felt right to me. Finally, like, I think I was just kind of dense about it and a little too literal about this stuff going on and the equation at work, right? That the Doctor sort of nudging him to this better person. Whereas while he was doing that, it's like the uncertainty principle, right? You get too close, like there's sort of an equal and opposite reaction. Well, that's another scientific, but anyway, you can't. It's not linear. In other words, like Kazran's reaction to that is something he didn't factor in. So it shows that again, the Doctor is super clever, but he doesn't know everything, and things sometimes backfire.
This is Moffat, and it's hard to believe I'm even going to say this, but this is Moffat taking a step beyond where Charles Dickens went, right? Because if you really examine the story of Scrooge, it's about 3 ghosts ganging up on an asshole, but is what the ghosts do any better? Like, it's, you know, so this is, like, I like that, and it really comes to the fore when you rewatch it, that Kazran is kind of right. The Doctor is kind of a dick for making him fall in love with Abigail. Like, he didn't think that one through. Or, like, you know, look at the very obvious numbers on her door. Like, she's only got 7 days to live. He's just like, oh, she happened to be the one that was out in Kazran's study when the family came to beg for her freedom on Christmas Day. Right.
Well, also, Kazran had clearly gone down and watched her video before about, you know, she loves the fish.
Yeah, as a child he had, yes.
Right, yeah.
And it's interesting that Michael Gambon does play it as if there's not a whiff of any memory of her in that opening scene. So it really does make that difference where all of a sudden you see the memories hitting him. And that's where he really shines as an actor, because you can literally see in his eyes when the moment those memories arrived, is that he has that great line, but that never happened. But it did. Yeah. And just the simplicity of that really sells it.
Oh, he has so many great lines along those lines. Like, I just met the Doctor tonight, and now it seems I've known him all my life.
Yes.
You know, it's like,
but also he has what every actor wants, which is a great number of lines of him just being a dick. It's just like, is that sort of a threaty thing? I love the way he says that.
I gotta say, I can rave and rave and rave about like the first scene, like basically where the family is there begging Sardik to let Abigail out, and the Doctor comes down the chimney.
Yes.
Matt Smith is at, you know, full 110% Geronimo Doctor.
Yes.
Like from minute one. He's got so many great lines. You know,
he was Geronimo down a chimney. And he does say that he does produce a picture of himself with Father Christmas, Frank Sinatra, Albert Einstein. Says the 3 of us together. Boom! Watch out. Okay, keep the faith. Stay off the naughty list. Which is
who knew that was foreshadowing.
Yes. Now, how does this fit into canon with Last Christmas? Because, of course, Last Christmas is all a dream, but the Doctor is intent on proving that Santa Claus doesn't exist. What are we doing to headcanon this? Are we saying that there is a difference between Father Christmas and Santa Claus, and the Doctor believes in one, but not, like, one is real and is called Jeff, but the other isn't, and is just a figment of your, face crab imagination?
I guess you have to just think that he got a Santa picture with Sinatra that he keeps around, and it was just some guy in a Santa suit. And now when he sees kids at Christmas, he pulls it out and says he was with Santa, but he knows it's not really him. Yes. I think that's the best, most straightforward thing. But since Last Christmas, maybe he's starting to question the identity of that guy. We'll see. But yeah, all the Smith stuff in that scene is great. I love the Sardik stuff too, where he goes, they said, well, the ship's going to crash, sir. And he's like, well, that's a sort of landing, isn't it? He's a little bit funny.
And Moffat manages to squeeze in his classic Who references with the isomorphic controls. A reference to Pyramids of Mars, where the Doctor fibs about isomorphic controls, right?
Yep, he fibs about it, and he seems to insist they're not real because maybe he tried to make the TARDIS isomorphic at some point and just couldn't do it. But here we go, figured it out on this Earth colony. But yeah, that was pretty funny. That's a pretty funny reference.
And then Matt Smith just has the perfect sort of defeated line reading of these controls are isomorphic. I love it. Yeah. I love it. It really is. I mean, the dialogue is so snappy. It's so screwball. It's so Moffat dialogue at its best. I love Amy, talking to the Doctor, which said the good few moments between them, even though Amy and Rory are kind of sidelined here.
You're talking about toward the end, right?
Yeah. No, right after the Doctor says halfway out of the dark, but you didn't hit the boy, and there's a bit.
When they're on the walkie-talkie, yeah.
He's checking in. She says, "Have you got a plan yet?" The Doctor says, "Yes, I do." Amy says, "Are you lying?" Doctor says, "Yes, I am." Amy says, "Don't treat me like an idiot." Rory says, "Was he lying?" Amy says, "No." It's just it's snap. So it's not all sort of as I said, and when we reviewed this the first time, very, very loud, trying to reach the living room at Christmas kind of stuff.
Well, there is definitely elements of that. The thing is, you mentioned it already, but one of the drawbacks here is Amy and Rory are pretty much sidelined to make room for the Michael Gambon and Matt Smith show, which is absolutely justified. I mean, they're both. That's the heart of the thing. It's this conflict between these two people, the person trying to turn the other person into something, and you're sort of figuring out the consequences of that. But the other part that isn't so great is the ship crashing. It's not real. It's obviously not really thought through, and it's super cliche. So it's supposed to be like the Bridge of the Enterprise, but it's the Bridge of the Enterprise in the new reboot movies with Chris Pine. And there are lens flares all over the place. I think they brought in J.J. Abrams just to shoot that scene.
It's very 2010. It has not aged well.
And it's things are exploding constantly, and smoke's coming out, and things on the screen are appearing at crazy times. And it just doesn't really make any sense. Wait, why you're crashing for an hour and stuff keeps blowing up on this bridge, which is already a dumb contrivance. And you can kind of squint in action movies and think either, giant power surges are happening as they're getting destroyed, or maybe actually the actual torpedoes are exploding right next door or whatever. You'll go with it. But here you're like, oh, we're going to crash in an hour. It's okay, wait. Which is it? Is something urgently happening right this second, or is something happening at some theoretical point in the future? It can't seem to decide. So all of that was kind of weak.
Definitely the weakest bit. Definitely the weakest moments for Moffat's dialogue. I've been thinking all week, so I mentioned on the Who Doesn't Love Christmas, that's the line "Christmas is cancelled" always riles me up. This time I was hung up on, once the Doctor gives his come along pond, appears on the screen as the TARDIS starts towing the ship, which, by the way, why again couldn't you just keep doing that? Why couldn't it lock on? It appears to have locked on. Anyway, and then there's a moment of zoom in on Karen Gillan's face, and we're waiting for the big line where she says, "What does it mean that the Doctor has said come along pond?" And she just says, "It's Christmas." And that has just seemed so naff that I've spent about the last week since I rewatched Christmas Carol trying to come up with better lines in my head.
Should we do the top 10? Should we get a jingle? Let's get through the sting in here.
I can't say I've actually come up with any because I push the thought away every time it pops up. But I'm
erasing, rewriting corner. The notes.
Yeah, it's just Bah Humbug corner. I'm just over here Bah Humbugging from my armchair at Stephen Moffat and just saying, come on, Moffat.
It's one of the few things to Bah Humbug about is the stuff on the ship and the bad dialogue, apart from some of the nice cleverness with Amy and Rory and their costumes and, some of the wink, wink, nudge, nudge stuff, which, again, might irritate you, but I really liked it.
But it's so, for every scene like that, there's a moment where, which I have to say, I think in the history of the psychic paper, this might be one of its best moments. And it's very much like what happens to the psychic paper in Star Beast, where, it's not caught up with the Grand Master of the knowledge. This says Grand Mistress. In here, the Doctor produces the psychic paper to young Kazran, who's trying to see, is this man really the babysitter that he says he is? And the Doctor says, "I think you'll find I'm universally recognized as a mature and responsible adult," which is just the funniest line of dialogue to put in Matt Smith's mouth. And Kazran says, "It's just a lot of wavy lines." The Doctor says, "Yeah, it's shorted out. Finally, a lie too big."
Yeah.
Which just builds up so much. The Doctor is a liar, and he does overuse the psychic paper, and this is just a step too far. And then he makes a Mary Poppins reference that I didn't quite understand. Maybe you can explain this to me. He says, "Have you ever seen Mary Poppins?" Kazran says, "No."
Rubbish.
Yes, but good, because that comparison would have been rubbish. Well, what comparison exactly? Because Kazran has just asked, "What's so special about you?" Is that like leading us into a Poppins song or something? I don't know.
That's a good question. I think it's just, it feels like something that he just liked the sound of and just left in, talking about Moffat here, and I don't know if there's too much to be read into it other than Mary Poppins and the Doctor. I guess it's happened. I guess there's been comparisons. I guess
they've just been talking about babysitters. So the Doctor's like, I'm kind of like Mary Poppins, but she was actually a licensed babysitter, Doctor. Not even the psychic paper will pretend to be a babysitter for you.
Quite so devil may care. So I don't think there's much more to be read into it than that. So Chris, I do feel like we got to get to the Bah Humbug corner, just because it's, we've got to get it out of our chests. This is
the Festivus moment. All right. The airing of grievances about A Christmas Carol. All right. I'm ready.
It gets a little bit grim, and a little bit, some of the stuff that this Earth colony has become. So just look at what Kazran's doing and his dad in terms of taking these people as what they call security and freezing them underground or in this room and just kind of keeping them there mostly out of spite as some kind of incentive system that no one can ever really pay off. It's very weird. And, again, fantasy world, we're going to go with it. But there's some grim stuff here, as well as, just the whole idea of, I think you're about to go into adjusting someone's life to your own end. Now, I think we can sort
before
of
I get there, while you were talking about colonists, I was reminded of the fact that we are on a colony. And Sardik says right at the beginning, on this world, the first settlers called it the Crystal Feast. Now, are the first settlers the same as what's now? He's implying that it is now Christmas because they're all singing Christmas carols. So basically, a Christian culture has come in and overridden what the first settlers called it. The Crystal Feast.
Well, no, I took that to mean that the people who settled called it something. I didn't. First of all, I don't necessarily think. Well, actually, it is Christmas, right? Because the family is doing Christmas.
Yes, he says back on Earth we called this Christmas or the winter solstice.
Yeah, but I mean, the settlers must have been humans,
Yes.
Like, so yeah,
but
I don't know.
Then they were somehow pushed out by this Christmas worshipping cult. It's just come along. I told you we're going full Festivus, baby.
It's a big read. So I guess what you could conclude is that the people who first came tried to sort of do something different or had some other religious thing. I don't know. But then as this colony grew more successful and more people came, because Earth still holds Christmas as the main sort of holiday in the solstice, and even in the future, that just naturally sort of took over. That's sort of what I would sort of read that, but who knows? That's a lot of speculation. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, there is one point of the Doctor Who Confidential on this. If you watch, there's one crew member sort of casually talking about the kind of clothes that the colonizers wear, and you just sort of hear that word in 2023, colonizers.
Yeah,
you hear that a little bit differently. So maybe there's something in the background that's not being talked about. Anyone want to bring up Thanksgiving? Anyway. Yes, you are also right that it is ethically and morally dubious for the Doctor to do what he does in terms of Kazran, because he could just overpower Kazran very easily. He could just follow through with this sort of threaty thing. But then he hears A Christmas Carol. He gets the idea of A Christmas Carol. And by the way, let's be in History Corner as well as Airing of Grievances Corner, because I feel like there's not enough reference to Charles Dickens. This Doctor's supposed to be Charles Dickens' number one fan, and it takes him this long to recognize Kazran as a Scrooge archetype. Like, and why is the S word never spoken in this? Like, we could have a lot more dialogue about Scrooge. We could have a lot more, bigging up of Charles Dickens. His name isn't even spoken. Number one fan, my bottom. Yeah, and is it right? Kazran is right. And, the Doctor is not a licensed therapist. He's not a responsible adult. You can't just, yes, I get that he's a Time Lord and he's doing rehab out of order with... to quote the giggle, which is kind of very much what he's doing in A Christmas Carol. He's trying to do rehab for this guy who never signed up for it. Like, he's breaking all. He could not publish this study in the Gallifreyan scientific journals. Like, there's so many ethical violations. And then at the end, he just sort of walks away from he decides arbitrarily, he controls Abigail's life. He's just decided arbitrarily that she's going to spend her last day now because she has to sing to fish. Did she get a say in that? We don't see it. And then he just walks away from both of them, he avoids the messy bit, which is Abigail suddenly dying at midnight, leaving old Kazran to deal with that. Thanks, Doctor. Just walking because now Amy and Rory have landed and he's just off with them. It's going to leave this.
Single-handedly ruined A Christmas Carol for so many people. Damn it.
Okay. These were not my opinions. These were the opinions of a trained actor.
So the thing that I think really sort of bears some scrutiny is what the Doctor does to Kazran, because it is sort of front and center there. And his ethics, does he get a free pass because he's trying to save 4,000 people? I think to some extent, yes, he does. But that said, the sort of manipulation through time to sort of push someone in this sort of direction, it's interesting because at least he's doing it to his face. In other words, he's showing him what he's doing and doing it to him, so he sort of understands it, which again also backfires to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But it actually got me thinking about, this is a great idea to apply over a season or over a sort of a longer period of time with characters and have it be a little more part of a sort of a time manipulation adventure, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't think the Doctor Who has done a lot of. Arguably, maybe a little bit with Harold Saxon and the Flux sort of storyline and with the unit and stuff in there. But I would love to see that sort of done a little more thoughtfully and a little more, to your point, in a much more dubiously ethical way. Here, I think because he does it to his face, it's less bad than it would be. And again, because there's this sort of emergency that we're at least convinced is real emergency through dialogue and lens flares.
Well, I got to say,
I'm going to give him a long leash on this one, Doctor. So
you saying do it to his face. I'm going to air one more grievance. Mm-hmm. The Doctor has nearly enabled child abuse here by your elder self, and okay, I'll just step aside, step into my. I'll have a bi-generation moment where I just step into the nice thing and say, yes, I absolutely love that scene because it draws on, I think, a bigger fear for all of us than sharks swimming through the air, which is what would we look like to our younger selves?
Yeah.
That's the power of that moment. Is like Kazran suddenly realizes what he looks like to that kid, the monster that he's become, and we all fear that ourselves. But he nearly strikes the kid. Okay, step back into pessimist mode. Nearly strikes the kid. And my God, what would have happened? I mean, we're going to talk in a bit about what would happen if the evil plot succeeded. But what would have happened if Kazran had actually struck his younger self? I mean, we're not even talking Blinovitch limitation effect here, because obviously he can hug the kid. It's not like two brigadiers meeting from several years apart, apparently. Maybe it's the resonance of the ice crystals or whatever else you want to headcanon this that prevents any sort of Blinovitch problems. Kazran meeting himself, hugging himself. But no, if he'd struck himself as a kid, then that kid has a memory of older him striking him, so then he becomes even more messed up. Like, you're going to have to bring in legions of Gallifreyan therapists on this case if the Doctor messes it up and has Kazran strike his younger self, because I feel like there's sort of a feedback loop of insanity, of PTSD that will never end.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't happen, so settle.
Yeah, well, so that's all right. Well, let me quote the toy maker. So that's all right then.
Well, it kind of is. Again, you're pushing me into the role of being the apologist for the Doctor here, and I think one, whenever someone's striking someone, to your point, yes, situationally, the Doctor sort of set this up, but it's on Kazran. It's on the person doing the striking. Okay, so that's number one. But yeah, like the whole thing where this would this work, changing your own memories, bringing yourself to see yourself, probably not, and probably there are a lot of consequences that we don't really see on screen. So there are definitely some issues here, but in the context of this story where it sort of ends in a place that isn't an entirely happy ending, that is the thing, with Abigail surely going to die within hours of the last moment we see her, even though she's having tons of fun with that shark. It's a bittersweet ending. I think what we're sort of have to believe is that there is, this whole high stakes of saving the lives of all these people who we kind of never see even in hologram form, but also like Kazran's life and his decisions and becoming something else. There's just so much upside to that. Because if you think about like, okay, all those people in that vault, this is a sort of a point of discussion between me and my kids after the closing credits ran, is that, well, is he just going to free all those people? And I asked them, what do you think? And they both thought, yeah, he will. And it's like, well, that's good. And that's actually like, because we see that and we see the people and we felt that more than the ship, that is a bigger win in my view, even though they never say it. So where they ended up, it's a much better place. So yes, high risk, but high reward.
All right. Well, here's how I'm going to headcanon it to save Christmas, save A Christmas Carol. I'm going to headcanon it that off screen, after he walks back to Amy and Rory, he goes back to Kazran and Abigail after they finish their shark ride, and he presents them with 2 tickets for one night on Beryllium.
Oh.
So Abigail has her last day, but she has it on a planet where day equals whatever it is, 24 years?
Yeah, something like that. Which, I don't know if that would work. All right, this is clearly that would be the day.
Gotta say, Abigail doesn't look particularly sick, right? So it's like, what exactly is she going to die of? Is it, ticking time bomb disease?
Yeah, it could be. It could be this thing where her cells just all sort of come apart. Whoa, that's right,
and
folks.
That's happened. The pull to open sign just fell.
My power.
The power of the ghost of Christmas future just did that.
You got a little floating fish back there, I think. I'm just going to take that as a cue, and that is a cue to start asking some questions about what's going on here. And those are, of course, the 4 questions to Doomsday.
Oh my God. I feel punished by the randomizer, but yes.
Well, let's find out. That could be why the randomizer took us here, because that's the first question. Why did it?
Well, obviously it wanted to get Christmassy with it. It's definitely been interesting watching this in the context of the Christmas of the holiday specials.
Yeah,
looking at the Christmas special coming up, which I got to say, a lot of fans are not too thrilled about the idea of the Doctor singing, of there being an actual song in the Christmas special.
Those fans are jerks.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And here is the randomizer telling you that you're jerks, because here is a beautiful Christmassy song that I have grown to love. And, the Doctor has changed my history on this. It was definitely the Christmas special that I think I needed to see. It gave me the opportunity to wear the Bah Humbug hat. So thank you, randomizer, for that. It's a nice soft landing. And yeah, I mean, imagine if we'd had to watch Dalek Master Plan right after the giggle. That would, yay, Mavic Chen, but Yeah, thank you, Randomizer, for the soft landing.
Wow, yeah, you're really just tempting that fate. I know we talk about Dalek's master plan a lot, but oh boy. Yeah, I really don't have much more than that. 'Tis the season. Certainly after the giggle and everything that went on there, the sort of timey-wiminess of the story. Yeah, and singing, I'll take that.
Yeah,
singing is okay. Singing is good in Doctor Who. It has a place.
It definitely does, and definitely all of that. It ties into the Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit as well in all of the ethical considerations. We talked about that last week. That it's a very sort of ethically interesting story. So is this, and some of those ethics are explored in a very interesting way. So this is like peak mature, thoughtful Doctor Who while still being tons of fun. And what else do you want at Christmas?
Yeah, it's true. Actually, if you think about it, the Randomizer's been on a bit of a maturity streak. If you think about Nightmare of Eden.
That's right. The Wire and Space. Yeah.
And now this one. Yeah. Mature themes, mature jokes.
Definitely.
Maturity.
Definitely getting at this question of identity and how identity can be changed, which is not just a theme of the specials, but also a theme of everywhere we've been since the Three Doctors.
Right, as long as those identities don't involve mortgages, I think.
Hey,
all right.
Which, hello, that definitely got referenced again, right? We forgot to mention that. The Randomizer has been sort of hinting at the mortgage thing. Like, the Impossible Planet turned out to be the perfect thing to see right before the giggle, given the Doctor finally does have to settle down with someone.
Oh my God, sounds like some kind of evil plot. We're going to have to ask ourselves about this story and what if the evil plot had succeeded?
Okay, so we're assuming that the evil plot is Kazran's and not the Doctor's evil plot to change Kazran's timeline.
Right,
which did succeed.
But Kazran doesn't really have a plot. So this is my thing here. It's like he doesn't want the ship to crash. He just doesn't care. He's just like, whatevs. I'm not going to lift a finger to save those people because he just doesn't want to. So I don't think he cares whether the ship crashes or not. So if the plot to change him doesn't work, which it almost doesn't because the machine doesn't work anymore, I think the Doctor just somehow finds another way to save the ship. And it makes no difference to Kazran. Like I don't believe he'd just shrug and go like, "Oh well, call up Amy Rory. Sorry, you guys are dead.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick up some other companions in a few minutes."
Yeah.
In fact, I like this Abigail person. Maybe I'll grab her.
Yeah. Oh, she's got good companion potential.
So I think he basically time travels, figures out some giant net or some giant cushion that catches the ship, or maybe he even fools the Daleks into like tractor beaming the ship so that it comes back to safety, and then sort of double crosses them, and then maybe even Sarda gets his because then the Daleks come looking for the Doctor and then just blast him away. So.
Yeah. Or the Doctor like calls up images of Daleks, so really scares Kazran, close to death, or just goes all on coming storm on his ass.
Yeah, like what he was doing with me and what was that one? Face the Raven. Like,
yeah,
give me a minute. I'll bring the Daleks here, and I'll make sure you pay for this.
You'll find it's a very small universe when I'm angry with you. Indeed.
There it is, grim. All right. Oh boy, that's
speaking of the thing that the Doctor was angry about. We have a question.
It's where is the Clara Splinter? Clara Oswald, of course, splintered in time at the end of the name of the Doctor. She's somewhere in every single Doctor Who story. Where is she in A Christmas Carol?
She is the one who has managed to make Abigail's voice that extraordinary. She's the singing teacher for the family, but also she's like a singing, again, getting into the ethical implications of changing someone's timeline. She's the singing teacher, but somehow she has to stop Abigail from becoming like super intergalactic famous with that voice.
Oh, okay. So she says she's a great voice coach, but she also says, I should also be your agent, and she's deliberately a bad agent.
And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. No one's calling me back. Or like maybe it's just like, you know what? love, you're great. Don't give up the day job. What's your day job? Oh, you're poor. Yes, that's right. Just stay poor, and if you can, nobly sacrifice yourself and just step into this cryogenic chamber. Then your family won't have to owe Mr. Sadrick so much money. It's Mrs. Sardick. Yes,
I like that. That's good. All I could think of was that every time the Doctor takes Sardick and Abigail somewhere, that he needs someone to hold the camera while they shoot photos in front of the Eiffel Tower or whatever. Yes. And there's always a petite brunette there, ready to hold this weird looking camera, and she just kind of disappears every time. So
for some reason she doesn't seem to blink twice at it being a smartphone camera, so it's a little weird. She seems to be up on different kinds of technology, and she's just everywhere. So little petite brunettes and sunglasses around every major landmark.
Yeah.
And maybe she also has to be the pastor at the church where the Doctor gets quote unquote married to Marilyn, just to make sure that she cannot legally perform the ceremony.
Oh, yeah.
She steps in.
Chapel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She makes sure of that, because River would be so mad.
Yeah, she would.
If the Doctor married Marilyn.
Well, she could be the driver to make sure he doesn't go to a real chapel.
Yes.
So there you go.
Or she's actually Marilyn. And it's not Marilyn. It's Clara.
Okay, no, I don't like this whole Dr. Mary. You just went there. No.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's another cue to move on.
Me, Frank Sinatra, and Albert Einstein when we get together. Vroom. Anyway.
It's time for the final question. The ultimate question. The only question that matters for A Christmas Carol. What did we think of this story? The Pull to Open rating system has 6 ratings. There's the Dalek, which we give to a good episode of Doctor Who. The Ogron, which we give to a bad episode of Doctor Who. The Professor Hater, which we give to a bad episode, but hey, at least they tried something. The Viscount Banger, which we reserve for the best of the best. The Fixed Point in Time, which is a story beyond rating, sometimes for reasons of nostalgia, but occasionally for other reasons. Or the Lady Cassandra, which of course is the Doctor Who story with a paper-thin plot, but hey, at least it looks good, particularly with a little moisturizing. What do we got?
Right. Well, what I've got, Pete, is a present for you. It's my Christmas present. It's in a rather large box under the tree, and when you start unwrapping it, you get a little glint of gold at the top. It's a coronet. It's a coronet worn by a member of the British aristocracy. And you pull it down, and it's actually a Dalek wearing a Viscount Banger headdress.
So wait a minute, is it a hybrid?
It's a hybrid.
Wow. I independently came to the same conclusion. This is a Dalek Banger hybrid. I was so not sure which way to go on this, because I really enjoyed it. My appreciation for this increases almost with every watch. I think I'm really influenced by my kids here too. This has definitely become, if not their favorite, one of their favorites. They love revisiting it. I really loved watching it with Grace, and she cried at the sad moments, and she sort of snuggled into me. It was such a good thing, but she was so happy to watch it because she knew it would sort of happen. But it's just this Doctor Who. It's like It's a Wonderful Life. This is basically, you said it. It's Doctor Who's It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
You like going back and crying at the cry bits and loving the fun bits. It's a classic, but at the same time, there is sort of the weaknesses of the Star Trekkiness and the sidelining of the companions and all, etc. So it's a step short of perfection, but it is really, really good. It's definitely like beyond even an Emperor Dalek. It's a Dalek Banger hybrid.
It's definitely the best Christmas episode that we've been to so far, which we only really have the competitors of Dr. Wither and the Wardrobe. Did we do any others?
No, we did Runaway Bride.
We did Runaway Bride. It's better than that. But yeah, I think you've also got to start looking at our top 100, our Hot 100 of the stories we've visited so far. Go back and listen to that podcast if you haven't. the Viscount Banger 100% percentage would put this in the realm of War Games, Inferno, Genesis, Talons, Legopolis, Dalek, Girl in the Fireplace, Blink. It's not quite up there. It's not like Day of the Doctor. It's not Flatline. By giving it a 50% banger rating, this puts it more in the realm of like Rosa, the Aztecs, Carnival of Monsters, Mythmakers. I think that's the perfect slot for it. So
yeah, and you kind of have to think about it outside the Christmas context. I love watching this at Christmas. It's great. It's perfect for the season. But would you actually go out of your way to see this in July or some other part of the year? Like, oh yeah, that's it's pleasant. It's nice to revisit, but you wouldn't be as affected by it. So it feels like a banger in December. But most of the time, it's probably just a really, really amazing Dalek.
Yeah, you know what we could do for just this once, Rose. We could make it like a special Christmas #1 in our hearts, in our Hot 100. There we go. Just for 1 week only.
Folks, you heard about what we thought of A Christmas Carol. You can now share your opinion with our poll feature in Spotify. So Spotify listeners, go to the poll. Rate the Christmas Carol, A Christmas Carol, and let us know what you think, and we'll talk about those results in a couple of weeks, probably.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We'll see that, I guess, before the new year. We'll be able to talk about that. But in the meantime, it's time to escape this planet before Abigail dies, because we don't want to stick around for that messy bit. So let's leave A Christmas Carol and pretend that she's never going to die, and step back into our TARDIS and hit the randomizer, which has 2 components. Pete has run all the way around the internal rings of the TARDIS, David Tennant-like, and is standing at the controls. Yes, and he's standing at the controls of the Codex, which is the list of every Doctor Who story in non-random order. And folks, just so you know, I don't look at the Codex very often, if ever. Like, I look at the Hot 100 order. I can't remember the last time I looked at the Codex. I've not memorized the numbers. I could not come up with there's nothing up my sleeve, literally. Look,
it's also like the numbers change every week because we take out the ones.
Yes.
That
we've
done. So.
And I'm really bad at math anyway, because I'm a journalist. So I just stand all the way over here at the controls of a jukebox at the other end of the TARDIS, which is random.org. Is it kind of a jukebox? But it's a jukebox that uses atmospheric noise instead of algorithms to come up with its randomness. So yes, reflected crystals, fish in the atmosphere, all of that goes into this truly random number. And what I do is I enter the minimum and the maximum. Minimum is 1, and an earthly child will still not be in there. And the maximum, Pete, because now we've added the giggle, yes?
Oh, yes, the giggle is there.
What is the maximum number that we can go to?
It is, once again, 199.
We might be able to get out of the 199 zone before the Church of Ruby Road, but it'll put us right back in there.
I feel like this randomizer portion is going to start to feel a lot like Hellbent.
Heaven Sent, do you mean?
Heaven Sent, sorry, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, by the way, did we discuss this, the Doctor being a billion years old in the giggle? Yes, we did. Okay.
We did.
All right, before I hit the generate button, we're going to issue some challenges to the randomizer, or we're going to stand cap in hand in front of the randomizer and say, please, Mr. Randomizer, maybe have Christmas off. And I'm going to say, give us, we sort of asked for vacations in the past. Around vacation times, Christmas times, give us something nice and easy, like a lovely little low stakes, perhaps a little bit fun, light on the brain story. Don't give us anything like, I know you'd like to investigate ethics, so do we, but come on, it's Christmas, randomizer. Give us something like just where I don't have to think too much. That's my ask.
Cool. Okay, so we're coming from a Christmas story. We have another Christmas story coming up, the story being The Church on Ruby Road. And I'm feeling like let's lean into the Christness of it. Let's do something with a church or some kind of religious setting.
Bells of St. John's, even.
Could be something like the Daemons or
Curse of Fenric.
Or Rings of Akaton, even though things of that, like that. That's a very religious episode, that kind of thing. Let's get some more. Let's get some religious.
What, Satan wasn't enough for you?
Ha!
We gotta get Satan.
I need a cleanser. I need a Satan cleanser. That's what I need.
A little Satan sorbet, if you will. All right, give me a countdown. I'll hit the generate button.
In 4, 3, 2, 1.
Buttercup for letter.
187. This is recent.
For sure. Very recent. Look at this. It is Demons of the Punjab.
Whoa. Okay. Nice. Very boring. Nice. Yes. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, you asked to get away from the devil, and here we have demons. Wow. Okay. Well, this is fabulous. I love Demons of the Punjab. I bawled when I watched it the first time. I'm very interested in that sort of period of history. We're going to get into a history corner about the partition. That's going to be a fun Christmassy thing to do. Oh my goodness.
We're going to get into it. We're now in the 15th Doctor, so we got to rewind two back.
That's right. Whittaker. Way back in the Jodie Whittaker era. Remember when? Way back in our first season.
Oh, folks, this has been Pull to Open. It is a podcast. Podcasts are great things to follow or subscribe to. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and please do so. We're available on all the fine podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Overcast, Google, etc. All of it. Go ahead and follow us on the socials: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Pull to Open 63, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Pull to Open. Thank you, Martin West, as ever, for our music. And we will see you next time for some Demons in the Punjab.
All right. Happy demonish Christmas, everyone.